and review the minutes from the previous meeting. Any questions, changes, anything? Do I hear a motion to approve of the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
Pam, do you mind just reading the top
Oh,
there, as
sure,
required by
sorry.
law?
As required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair.
Okay, so our COVID update actually hasn't changed too much from what is in your packet. We are currently tracking 9 active cases and 1 probable case. Our positivity rate still remains low. We have almost 9,000 people fully vaccinated, which is great news. If you look at the numbers, a lot of these are the younger kids, the 12 to 15, that are starting to get vaccinated, which is great to see before school. There was a public health emergency order enacted last week, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me, requiring any nursing home staff to be vaccinated by a specific date this fall. And the one last update on COVID that's not in your packet, recently they have approved a 3rd dose of the mRNA vaccine for certain individuals that are immunocompromised. So they're not calling it a booster at this point, they're just calling it a 3rd dose in the series. So not too much for COVID updates.
Have the schools mandated any vaccines at all?
Not at this point, no. I believe the school board voted last week, on the regulations, and they will be requiring masks for now, but I think that's an ongoing policy that will be updated as data shows. Ready to move into the
Yep.
next one?
We're going right into new business.
So we're on the Board of Health discussion
Oh,
on
I'm
sewer
sorry, I'm way ahead of myself here. Okay.
extension
Yep.
criteria. So there wasn't anything included in the packet. This was merely to have board discussion on what you would like to see moving forward. Thinking into the future, we're not there quite yet, but when we do order to connect to the sewer, you might want to start thinking about certain criteria that you'll be looking at for connections, anything that you'd like to see. If you want to delegate anything at the staff level, you're more than welcome to do that. This is just a good opportunity for the board to discuss what they'd like to see moving forward.
Have any homes in Harwich been hooked up to the sewer system yet?
Not yet, not yet. Nope, it won't be ready for another few weeks. And our next item we'll get to, the board actually has to pass the sewer connection regulation before we send out the actual orders. People will be able to connect before that goes out. There are people that are ready, and as soon as the pipes are allowed to be connected to, people will start connecting without the order.
Do we have any idea when that might be, roughly?
I want to say at the end of August,
Hmm.
but don't hold me to that. That's
2 or 3 weeks?
hopefully.
That's nice. All right.
I mean, as far as extensions goes, I know Part D in the next section, when I was reading up, is, 10 years from a recent Title V, I think that's perfect, as long as they're giving us the information. And the other thing I know we had talked before a little bit about it when we had mentioned it is just, there is a significant cost, and then people do have avenues for hardship, right?
They do. So they also have 2 years to connect, so you wouldn't be seeing any of the hardships for another 2 years, excuse me.
Right.
A question, if we did decide to go with the 10-year from the Title V, is it possible to make a requirement that they are, I know you're supposed to get your septic systems, like pumped every 2 years, but whether anybody does it or not is.
You could have the condition. So it's actually 10 years from the certificate of compliance for the system. So that's
Okay.
10 years from a new system.
Yeah,
Right.
the system was put in 5 years ago. They've
Yes.
got
Yep.
5 years to
Get
catch
another
up with it
system,
from now.
Exactly. So you can make that decision as the board that you will, automatically waive anyone that does the paperwork, but if they can prove that their system is within that 10-year, you could grant, so if it was installed 5 years ago, you could grant the 5 years automatically if you choose to go that route.
All right. All right.
So this, I feel like this will be an ongoing discussion, but I wanted to bring it back, just so it's in the back of your mind now that we'll be seeing them come up sooner rather than later.
All right. So this is a work in progress.
Yes,
Are there any restaurants that might be hooking up to the sewer
Yes.
system?
they will be, yep.
How big?
I believe that whole 400 East Plaza, so that has 400, Szechuan, there's a few other little,
Liquor store?
yep, liquor store, yeah.
That's good, that's a smart idea.
Yeah.
Fire department?
I'm not sure if the fire,
I think that does get hooked, the
Yeah.
fire department.
Yeah, we're planning on talking.
the fire department, yeah,
Because we delayed
that's right.
their necessary. We didn't force them to put it in Title V because.
Right, yep, that's right.
Strike the word force.
So I figured this would be just a quick discussion, but I want you to
Yeah.
have it in the
Work
back
on
of
it.
your mind.
Work on it. Okay.
Sounds good.
So the next one is the actual sewer connection regulation. We did have this vetted by legal before. I highlighted some of the sections that I thought the board would be interested in changing or have some input on. We can certainly adjust anything in there. This is based off of what Chatham has.
Isn't Chatham's 1 year instead of 2 years? Not that it makes any difference, but we can go with 2.
So it was originally 1 year, and then, the 2 years was actually our wastewater commission had voted.
Yeah, all right, and I think that's, the only, the question that I had was on D, where I kind of felt that since we're going to allow it within a transfer, all right, with let me see, I guess this would be with a regular system versus the AI.
So make it any system as defined?
Or if you want to leave this as AI down here, at least allow them to have the difference between, in other words, if they have a new system put in and it's only 2 years old and they sell the place, that they would get the 8 years.
Yeah, if you want to change that, we can certainly go that
To me, I
route.
just think that that's fair,
Mhm.
because the price of that AI is, to me, is going to be in the price of the house when they buy it.
So I'm sorry, just AI or any system that has been installed?
I'm trying to think I'm trying to think what other system, I guess, really, any other system.
Any septic system
Yes,
as defined?
I don't want to say acceptable system. What would be the word? How to think about the wording. In other words, any.
A compliant Title V?
Yes, yeah. Perfect. Yeah. I just thought they should be given the option of that, the difference between.
And so if you had that, would you add at the last,
Yes.
after transfer, put unless waiver, unless has an approved waiver?
Oh, yeah. Extension waiver, I don't know what you call that, just a waiver, I guess. But I just felt that, I know if I was buying a house like that, I thought about how I would feel if it was like, the system is good for another 8 years, and I have to put in another system, and the other one's only 2 years old.
Wouldn't it be upon the owner of the system currently before they sell to transfer it?
So the way
Instead of the person buying the house?
the way the waiver works out, they both agree upon it, and it's in that document. So however the sale is structured, we don't have any input on who, as long as someone. So we receive an actual notarized document stating the address, who's responsible for it, We just care that it gets done. It's between the two parties to decide who will be paying.
And at what point? And at
Yes.
what point?
So if we're changing this to a compliant Title V septic system, do we want to delete alternative and then?
What's your thought on, I don't have a problem with it like this, and then just allowing them the difference between, however, like you're saying with the other one, you know, they have the remaining 5 years, or whatever is left in that.
And would you want to see that at the board level or automatically going to?
What are we doing up here?
So you, if I'm understanding you, Sharon, you basically want to scratch the entire last sentence. And that if the property's transferred, the 5 years or whatever many years
Is remaining-
should carry over with the transfer.
Yeah, that's, I don't know how we would word it, but that's my thought. In other words, if they put an AI system in and it's only 2 years old, and they sell that to somebody, that other person would have 8 years left out of the 10 to switch to the sewer system. Because that to me falls, I know the time frame is longer, but it falls in line with what we're doing up above, where,
Yeah, I mean, to me, that extension sounds like an agreement with the current owner. I know in a lot of cases, once, agreements with the current owners, once a house gets transferred or anything else, in a lot of other similar situations, like those agreements don't take hold and they have to meet up to code. I mean, I personally, if somebody has the agreement that this is the septic system that they put in and it's gonna last so many years, if they're transferring the ownership of the house to somebody else, I would be totally comfortable with making them transfer it at the time. If you're selling the house, let's whoever's buying it, I mean, I think they should have the most, if we're hooked up to the sewer system, then they're not worried about having to do it 8 years down the road. But if that ultimately is the goal anyway, and the house is gonna be sold, why not have them do that before they sell it? I feel like
you're
that,
saying you want them to transfer that with the original owner before they sell it.
I would say, yeah, if somebody plans on selling, have them transfer before they sell the house. I feel like that agreement goes on with the current owner, and once a new owner comes in there, I feel like it should be done, and a new owner shouldn't have to worry about that, nor should anybody on the board or involved at lower levels.
Well, if you lived in a house and you put an AI system in, and it would cost, I have no idea what, let's just say, I don't know, 20,000. All right, and it was gonna be good for 10 years, and now for whatever reason, you have to sell your house and get out. All right. And now you, or somebody's gonna have to be responsible for another 30,000 to hook up to the sewer system, when that AI was supposed to be good for 10 years. I guess that's my point, is if it's good for the 10 years, why shouldn't they have the remainder?
8 more years.
Yeah, 8 more years to come up with, and that way it gives them also time to come up with the money if you just bought a house.
How much is the connection to the sewer system?
It depends on each property.
Yeah.
There's a
$25,000,
range.
isn't it?
Yeah, I would think about 25
Yeah.
would be probably a minimum. He's not gonna say.
Can be less, can be
Is that right,
more.
Larry?
I'm not, I was here, I'm not sure. We estimated it was less than that, but it's so dependent on the property.
Yeah, there's some of those properties,
You know, if you look what Chatham did, a lot of theirs was in the, say, $12,000 to $14,000 range. And that's been a sort of standard number, but I can see it escalating if,
yeah.
based on where your property is, so, you know.
Yeah, and then some of those, like, if they're required to put a grinder pump in, I don't know what was ever decided, whether the town was gonna help with that or not. But let's say you've gotta put something like that in, that's gonna be even more.
So far, we've minimized the number of anchor pumps.
Oh, that's good. All right. So that's just my thought, to give that person that, if the AI system is good, why not let them use it for that amount of time. That's just my thought on it.
It's entirely up to the board, whatever. I'm just here to write it out for you.
I tend to agree with,
That would make a lot of sense. I mean, really, if you're
Sharon.
selling the house, you're selling the permits too.
Yeah. Yeah, I would, like I said, if I were in that position, I would kind of look at that.
So just for a point of clarity, just so I have it correct, AI systems, only AI systems.
See, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what other systems we would talk
So
about.
there's a traditional Title V system is the system that you think of with a septic tank, a D-box, and some sort of leaching.
And that would be part of A and B.
So A and B would be
The-
2
the-
years.
Right, right. But that's the typical system.
Correct.
So then you have alternative septic systems.
And
So-
that has some form of treatment in it.
Right.
So you want to allow, basically the way it's written, but to take out the transfer requirement, am I understanding that correctly? And allowing those properties to still remain?
In other words, kind of very similar to what it's like up here, where you have the difference between the timing. I'm trying to think of how they wait.
So IA would have 10 years from,
All right,
of,
yeah. And what's, how do I get going to water it? What remains out of, trying to think of wording there.
Remains of the 10-year permit.
Yeah, the remainder of the 10-year permit. Very good.
is allowed at transfer.
Yes. Yeah, the transfer of the permit of the 10 years, remaining time of the, yeah.
Remaining balance of the 10 years
Yes,
is allowed at time of
yes,
transfer.
Yes, all right. That's good wording, yeah.
So we can't vote on this tonight. This is just a discussion item.
Yeah,
But
okay.
is everyone informally, pulling the consensus, is this the route that everyone wants me to take for the next iteration of the draft?
I'm in agreement, yeah.
Okay. I think that was the only report on this. Yeah. That was my only take on this one.
I can definitely amend that. Anyone else have any input before you see this again?
I mean, I'd be fine with that, you know. I would feel that any cost of hooking that up with the prices of housing these days and what houses are selling for over market value, if anybody thinks that the seller of the house isn't gonna try and get that money back in the sale and isn't gonna get it in a second, you know, so I think that would be the counterpoint to that.
Well, I think the people that are selling the house are going to recoup that money. It's the people that are buying it that are going to, if we left it as it is, they're going to have to come up with the additional money to to hook up to the sewer system.
I think Kevin's point's the opposite, because it would be the seller that would be responsible for the sewer connection. Is that, I'm understanding
Yeah.
that correctly?
Oh.
Ultimately, you're not leaving the connection for the buyer. If the seller has to take care of it before selling, yeah, they may have whatever system they got. I agree with that. You know, maybe the hookup is more expensive than the system that they put in. And I'm saying, have the seller take care of that before the house is transferred, before the transfer, so the buyer is not the one responsible for it, so the seller has it hooked up and sold and done and in its, where it should be as a final state before the house transfers.
I don't know if there's a way to word that it could be left up to the seller and the buyer. But I think I just look at a system that you're gonna spend all that money for 10 years, and it's only there for 2.
So you could leave it as the way it's written, which would imply that the seller's responsible, and they could always apply to come before the board, and you could take that on a case-by-case basis. They could appeal to the board for that decision on individual properties.
All right, so would that fall under the extension?
Yeah.
That's a thought. They could then apply.
Have it as an application for an extension before the hookup. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with that.
If they don't want to go through the process of applying, they hook it up before they sell the house. But if at least there's an avenue for people to have it, and I'm totally open to that, absolutely.
Yeah, I could go with that. I just hate to see somebody buying a brand-new house or a house And then now all of a sudden you're gonna have to come up with the extra money for the sewer as well, when you've got a system that is adequate. So,
They're gonna be under implication that we'll have to be hooked up to the sewer
oh,
anyways.
yeah, it would have to.
Yeah.
So
All
it's
right,
not
but
like
when
they're
that
gonna be
10 years
totally
runs out,
blindsided.
then you hook up to the sewer system. That's a given, yeah. That's an option. You
Mm-hmm.
like that option? That would work.
I like that.
All right, that would work. It leaves it either or.
Yeah, I think the intention should be to have them transfer it, but absolutely giving them the option in those instances where they have, that to apply for the extension, absolutely.
All
The
right.
AI systems, so.
So I guess not change anything? Just so I just want to make sure I'm clear.
The only thing I think we have to make that clear in here, that, as far as
I'd leave D as it is, but also include that circumstance as part of the viable extension requests.
but I think we have to state that here, because otherwise, if you just read this, if the property is transferred during that time, the property shall be connected to the public at that time of transfer. I think we have to state something there as far as,
Unless Board of Health has
or they, or.
Approved extension.
unless Board of Health has
Yeah.
approved an extension.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it has to state it there so that they would know there is another avenue. If we don't do that, they're never gonna see it if they look at this.
So I think it should also state, if I may, unless Board of Health has approved extension prior to transfer. So that the parties would come to you
Okay,
before
before the
it transferred, so you actually know who's the responsible party.
Okay, then I'm gonna throw another wrench in there. So we only meet once a month.
So
So would that
when we
be-
get, when we get closer to these, I think it's gonna be more frequent.
Yes.
But we're not gonna be looking at these for another, they'll have 2 years to connect, so you really won't be looking at extensions for almost 2 years.
And then, yeah, all right. And then possibly when we put it in here, we can state that it can be left up to you guys. In other words,
If you give
without having
certain
to go through the board.
criteria, you can absolutely do that.
All right, all right. Everybody? Anybody? Have anything else on this?
Just wanna make sure it's all set for the next time that you guys see this.
Yeah,
So just add that one sentence on the end of D,
right.
and everything else is.
And then we'll find
Yeah,
a
and
way
when
to.
it comes to extensions, let's make sure
and
we
we'll
mention
put that
that.
into the extension piece, all right.
Okay, so the other part of this, this will be a public hearing. There's a little bit more timing that goes on. We have to post it in the Chronicle. It has to go for 14 days. We looked at the schedule, and it looks like the first date that we could have the public hearing would be Friday, September 24th. We need 3 members of the board to be present. Would 3 of you be able to meet anytime during the day between 8:30 and 4 on the
What was the date?
Friday, September 24th? Ron would be able to, okay.
All right, all right.
What time?
What time would that be? Between 8 and,
Anytime, you'd have to make a decision right now, but town hall's open anytime between 8:30 and 4. I would suggest sometime between 10 and 2 to make it easier on you, but.
I don't have an issue with, any time. In other words, the
That
date's
days,
fine,
okay.
just,
Yeah. I usually
Yeah,
get
you
the
guys
kids
work.
off to school on Fridays, but I could be here 10, no problem.
Okay. Does 10 o'clock, Friday 24th? So we would just need a motion and to vote to send the regulation for a public hearing September 24th at 10 a.m.
Okay.
And
Do I
someone
hear
can
a
say
motion?
as moved if that's
I'll make a
easier.
motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll
Second.
You got it.
All in
You got
favor?
it.
Yep.
All right.
All in agreement.
Did you get everything for that you needed? Okay. Okay. Do you want me to just keep moving on, Pam?
I'm sorry, yes.
So for the new business, the show cause hearing, West Harwich Realty, A&W Drive-In, 297 Route 28, show cause hearing for failure to comply with an order issued to upgrade 2 failed septic systems. This is actually, you won't need any action this evening. We've already been contacted by the engineer. Test holes have been applied for, and dates have already been discussed for upgrade. So at this point, we can check it off the list, and if it doesn't get done, we'll let you guys know, and we'll be back.
Right.
But I don't expect it to be a problem. You want me to read the next one?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is 8 Port Pines Road to request a reconsideration of order of conditions originally granted on February 19th, 2002, then on May 9th, 2017, which includes a condition of there is to be no increase in square footage, habitable space, or number of bedrooms to the dwelling beyond those as shown on plan dated January 29th, 2002. The proposal is to construct a second-floor rear dormer to add 180 square feet of headroom for 2 closets and a master bath ensuite.
I open the hearing.
You want to come up? And can you just sign in too, please? There should be a paper right up there as well. You can do it after, whatever's easier. I know, I'm bossy.
That's all right. Thank you. So I feel it's pretty much straightforward. We have a.
Can you just say your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm John Crafton, representing the homeowners, Gregory and Susan Shorten, for 8 Port Pines Road in Harwich Port. I'm the builder looking to basically put a dormer on the rear of their Cape-style home. The upstairs of the house is pretty small, and the slope on the back of the house kind of cuts into the headroom of what is one bathroom upstairs. The homeowner would like to, with the addition of the dormer, increase the headroom for the availability of adding another bathroom and a closet space. So we're not adding to the footprint of the home in any way. We're just increasing the usability of the second floor for their lifestyle. And on the first floor of the home, there was a full bath with a shower. We removed the shower in hopes that by doing that, we can add a second bathroom to the second floor, which would then, at the end of it all, basically be adding a half bath to the home, because we removed what was a full bath and made it to a half bath on the first floor. And the rest of it's just headroom to make the second floor more usable. Oh, and also, one of the bedrooms on the first floor was removed and converted to a rear mudroom entrance for the home, because it just worked better for their lifestyle. And they have no intention of converting that back to a bedroom. It's been permitted and completed as a mudroom.
Okay, I don't see anybody, no comments from the public, I guess. Okay, I close the hearing. Discussion with the board.
I don't have any problems with it.
Yeah.
Recommendation.
I recommend to approve with conditions, no further increase in habitable square footage or habitable space without review by the Board of Health, as shown on the plans dated January 13th, 2021. Property to be restricted to 3 bedrooms maximum, variances and conditions to be recorded at Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, and all previous conditions apply, would be my recommendation.
Do I hear a motion?
A motion to approve with option 2.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All set?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Did you get the
Thank
green
you.
cards?
Thank you.
Okay. So, my health director's report. We are still meeting weekly with the Department of Public Health. We have calls every Tuesday. We meet with all the other health departments, health agents, the state epidemiologists, typically DESE, any other agencies that are involved, so those are still going on weekly. And we also have the Cape Cod Health Agents Coalition meetings that are meeting every other week now to discuss COVID as well as other regional concerns. We have started planning our flu clinics. I know it feels like it's summer, but we're coming up on flu season. We are tentatively scheduling an employee flu clinic date in October, and we hope to add 2 public flu clinics as well, drive-through style like we did last year. As I mentioned before, I won't embarrass her now, but we have our senior health agent start and has been such a fantastic asset to the team. Our annual non-resident taxpayer meetings have been recorded. I've already done mine, and I think the other department heads are still working on theirs. So these will get aired on Channel 18 and review what each department does, roles and responsibilities. They went out last year as well, so this will be similar to that. And really the last update, I've been working on budget proposals for fiscal year 23 and beyond. We've been directed from administration to start looking big picture and forward thinking. So as I had mentioned in past years, I want to propose to have the full-time health inspector instead of a part-time health inspector. It's a tough position to have part-time. There's been a lot of turnover historically the entire time the position's been in existence, so it would be really a big help to have a full-time health inspector. And if that got approved, it would need to then go to town meeting for approval. A few other items that I'm going to propose, and I can go over it with the board as we get closer. We've had a lot of rabies complaints lately. We've had a lot of bats that we've shipped out, and we're handling those. So I'd like to add in some kind of pre-exposure vaccine course for the staff level. Since we've been dealing with so many bats lately, it would be kind of a protective measure for staff. And that's it for my director's update. Pretty short for now.
We do have something out there on rabies, don't we?
We do.
Is it the type of information that it would, I think a lot of people aren't always aware that you don't have to handle the animal, particularly bats. You know, that some of the things that if we are finding bats, that we should at least allow people to realize that even if they're just flying around, if they get any of their saliva, you may not even know it.
Right.
Because I know of a case where that happened to a small child. And,
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of rabies education with the task force. I think that's
Okay.
why we're receiving more
Alright.
to get tested for rabies. But we can
Good.
absolutely work on furthering that education, absolutely.
just so people are aware that, you know, some people think they have to be bitten
Right.
or touch the animal, and that is not the
Just
case.
saliva. So for correspondences, we're very sad to have our remote intern Casey is done. Done for the summer, but came up with some great hurricane preparedness ones, as well as the food insecurity that we had talked about at the last meeting. We'll miss having Casey. We had a lot of fantastic material.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice. Wonderful.
So for permits, the only permit of note that I'll mention is Jake's Dockside Shack. Was a Scribner's error. The actual name of the restaurant is Jake's at the Harbor. So whomever makes the motion would just have to include that adjustment, reflect that correct.
Is that a new name for the one in Sagatuck Bluff?
It is, yes.
I mean, Sagatuck
Harbor, yep.
Is that what the owner is?
The owner passed away, didn't he?
He
The
did,
owner, Yeah.
yep. So the new owners, or the ones that will be, not the owners, the town's the owner, the new purveyor for the next part of the contract is actually Jake Rooney's. So it'll be Jake Rooney's at the Harbor Shack.
I didn't realize that. Kind of cool.
And they've already had their inspection, but we would just need proper paperwork to reflect the correct name.
How long did they stay open?
I'm sorry,
How long can they stay open?
for, how long is their contract for?
Yes.
I believe November, I don't have the paper in front of me, mid-November. I can follow up and send you an email, but I believe it's mid-November. And their hours will be about 10:30 to 7 every
Yeah,
day.
something like that. Great.
So this is the snack shack? that-
Correct.
All right, and that's not open year-round, though, is it?
No.
No.
It's a pot, what do you call it? Pot, I'm not sure what they call that.
Seasonal.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I didn't know if that was changing.
And this is only the temporary contract that got through for this year. There'll be a procurement process that will go out for other entities as well.
Do I hear a motion to pass the permits?
I'll make a
Nate?
motion to pass.
Can it just reflect?
Reflecting,
Make a motion to have was it a permit for Jake's at Sagatucket,
At Jake's at
Sagatucket,
the harbor.
Jake's at the harbor or Jake's at the harbor?
Thank you.
Did you say Jake Rooney's or Jake's at the harbor?
Jake's at the harbor.
But it's run by Jake Rooney's.
But I heard you say Jake.
Jake's,
Rooney's.
is it-
I'm trying to keep that straight.
Jake's at the
do I hear
harbor.
a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Well, this is really short.
Wow.
We finished?
We're-
I make a
Well-
motion that we
Adjourn?
adjourn the meeting.
Let's go
All
to
in
Jake.
favor?
What a great meeting.
Yeah, I'll say.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay,
Aye.
it's delightful.
The light up, right?
Yeah, I read through that packet. I could tell it wasn't gonna be too long.